Hello and welcome. The Battle of Zakrzew was one of the initial clashes of Polish November uprising. It was fought at the 14th of February 1831, and how it was started. Well, the Russians entered the Kingdom of Poland in the early 1831, and they marched on Warsaw in the several columns. Polish army had no clear plan what to do. Some of the Polish divisions simply withdraw on Warsaw, while the others tried to slow Russian advance down. And one of these divisions that actually seeked for combat was the division of General Zakrzew that fought the front group of the Russian 4th Corps near the village of Zakrzew. It was late because it was February, so despite the fact it was about 16 p.m. Then Zakrzew decided that this is a chance he was waiting for, and he launched his attack against Russians. He managed to drive them off the village of Zakrzew and to suffer some losses to Russians. Feeling that he's strong enough to fight them, he turned back into the town of Dobre, and then he decided to take the entire battle with the majority of the Russian group. But it is another clash, and today we are going to care about the Battle of Zakrzew only. So this is the setup for the game, and we have a Polish division here. Notice that Polish infantry is set up in battalions, while Russian infantry is set up in regiments. So that's why Polish units are numerous. And next, Poles have 3 infantry regiments, 1 cavalry regiment, 1 artillery group, and of course their commander. Russians have 2 cavalry regiments, 1 normal cavalry and 1 Cossack, 2 infantry regiments, both Jäger infantry, and 1 artillery unit with their commander. And what is quite important is the fact that we are fighting in the night. You can tell that on the turn track that all the turns are night turns. What it means? First of all the units have their movement allowance reduced by half. Next, all the attacking units have their strength halved as well, and cavalry cannot charge. So these are major disadvantages for the side which is attacking. Also, artillery gets some negative modifiers when performs fire against enemy. So Poles, despite having some numerical advantage, might have a problem with breaking Russians with ease. So that's all when it comes to the explanation. We can go into the game. Oh, one more thing. Victory conditions. There are only 2 victory points in this game, 1 for the Zakrzew and 1 for the Pniewnik. A side that controls each of these gets 1 victory point. So if Poles will capture only Zakrzew, they get 1 victory point, and if Russians will manage to control Pniewnik, they will also have 1 point, so it will be a draw. So to win the game, a side has to control each of these villages. And next, this is a game of Napoleon system, and this system has actually 2 sets of rules. 1 for the battalion regiment scale games, and 1 for the brigade scale games. And since we are using battalions mostly here, I am going to use rules for the battalion game. What is the difference? Well, the biggest differences are the losses, because there are different losses table for each of these versions, and you may tell that the brigade version is definitely much more bloody than the battalion version. So I'm going to use the battalion scale rules. They came with Grochów 1831 game. So let's start the game. We are starting with turn 1, and in the turn 1 Poles have initiative. because rules say so. So we don't have to roll for initiative. We can simply move Polish units. So I am going to. I cannot fire with my artillery because there is no one in its range. So 1, 2. Yes, I cannot move more because, like I said, I have my movement allowance limited by half. Next, 1, 2, 3. And now notice one important thing. This Russian cavalry. If there would be a day, then it would be allowed to countercharge on Poles. But it is a night, so it cannot countercharge. Now, this cavalry moves on. 1, 1, 2, 1, 2. Commander with artillery goes on here, and this 8th infantry regiment is going to be my reserve, so it moves like that. Okay, so that's all when it comes to the movement phase, and now we can resolve our attacks. And like I said, when you are attacking in the night, your strength is halved. So all these Polish units have their strength halved, but Russian units are defending. So they fight with their normal strength. So, Polish infantry regiment fires at Russian cavalry. Remember that all the Polish units have their strength halved in the night, so they have, normally each battalion has 4, now each battalion has 2, so they have total strength of 6 versus cavalry, so they are making attack, and 5, nothing, they missed. So, now I can resolve my attack against Russians. And now I have 6, and here I have 4, so it's 2, so I have 8. And the Russian cavalry unit has 3. So this is 8 versus 3, so this is 3-1 for Poles. And this is +3. 9, wow, that's amazing roll. And this means that Russians are disorganized and they have to retreat by 1 hex, and Polish forces have to undergo morale checks. This cavalry, they failed, so they are disorganized, and then Polish infantry, they passed. Why? Because there is a commander on the adjacent hex, and if we have a commander on the adjacent hex, then we get -1 for our morale checks. So they have 8, -1, it's 8, and I roll 9, so they passed. And now they can perform an advance after combat, and now let's calculate the losses. Poles had 9, so it's 9, 10, and 5. These are no losses for Russians, and Russians had 3 and 7, no losses for Poles. Same here. They are firing at these Cossacks, so this is 6 and 7 in the column of 6. This is a miss. And now let's resolve the combat. They have 2, 4, 6 and 8. And they have 5. So 8 versus... 2, 4, 6 and 7. This unit has only 2 strength points. So it's 7 versus 5, so it's 1-1. And now let's make a roll. 4. So both sides have to undergo morale checks. First, Russians. 8. Their morale is 6, so they are disorganized. And now Polish units. This battalion passed, this group passed, and Polish cavalry passed. Okay, and now losses. Poles had 7, so they will use column of 7, 8, and no losses for Russians. And Russians had 5, so the verse 5, 6, no losses for Poles. Okay, that was kinda bloodless fight. And now Russians. So what Russians want to do? These cavalry units well can't do much. Why? Because they are on the hexes that are adjacent to the enemy units, and it is impossible to make any turns when you are adjacent to the enemy, and due to this fact they have to stay here. And now these Russian infantry units, one, well, they cannot go here because moving into the woods costs you 2 movement points, and Russian commander, he moves 1 hex with his artillery. Okay, now Russian cavalry. Well, I think they just they have to stay on the hexes where they are. To make it simple, when you are adjacent to the enemy unit, you are effectively in combat with them, so you cannot simply move. You have to wait until the combat result will force you to retreat or not. Okay, so now we have to resolve Russian attacks. So this unit has a strength of 3 versus Polish regiment that has a strength of 12. Yes, because defending unit fights with its full strength, and only attacker has to halve its strength during the night combat. So Russians have 2 versus 12, so it is going to be 6 to 1, and you cannot get more than 4 to 1. But also, first of all, Poles are firing at them. They missed. So now Russians get -4 and -1 because they are disorganized. So it's -5 for Russians and 1, oh, horrible. This is 1, they are retreating. This is D, so they are disorganized, and since they are already disorganized, then they are broken, and now they have to undergo 1 more morale check because of the result set 1D plus T. And if they will fail this morale check, they will be eliminated, because unit which is broken and fails morale check is eliminated instantly. 8, and their morale is 7, so wow, they are no more, they are done, and this cavalry unit is eliminated. But still I have to make a roll for possible Polish losses. 9 in the 3-4, it is 1 loss. So even if they are eliminated, it managed to inflict 1 loss to the Polish regiment. And same goes here. Russians are attacking Poles. Poles are firing at them first. They failed, they missed. So Russians have 3 because they have 5, and we are halving and rounding it up. So it's 3 versus 12 and versus 2, so it is 3 versus 14. So this is going to be definitely less than 1 to 4, so it will be -4 and -1 because the Russians are disorganized. So it is same situation as before. Russians have to retreat. They are broken, and now they have to undergo morale check, and if they will failed, they are also done. Well, they are. So that's all when it comes to the Russian cavalry. Say goodbye to them. That was quick. And now let's roll for the possible Polish losses. 7 in the 3-4. No losses for Polish side. That's good. So this concludes turn 1. We are moving into turn 2. Let's check for the initiative first. Poles 4, Russians 2. So Poles have initiative. Next, we have to go with the command range of command. Commander is here, and each commander has 2 hexes range. So I think all his units are in his range, so all the Polish units are in command. Russian commander is here, so all his units are in command. Okay, that's good. Next, reorganization. So this cavalry needs to be reorganized. Let's make a roll for it. 12, it remains disorganized, and all the Polish units are reorganized. Same to Russians. Okay. So artillery cannot fire at anyone, so we are making a move with Polish units. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Artillery remains here and commander goes there. 1, 2, and this cavalry goes on the same hex with commander, so it will not only protect him, but he will be also help it to reorganize in the next turn. So that's all for the Polish movement. Poles are not attacking anyone. So now Russians. Russian artillery is here. It cannot. I mean, it has a range of 4, I think, but this is light artillery. Yes, it can fire at a range of 4, but it will have -6 because of firing in the night on such a big range. So you can tell this is impossible roll. And now Russian infantry here, and I wonder, I think I would like to go here. Yes, I have to fight with these Poles, but I would like to hold these woods because it will be easier for me to defend when I am in the woods. So Russians are attacking this Polish cavalry. They have 4 because they have 8, and Polish cavalry has 2. So this is 2 to 1. And 2 in the 2 to 1 it is 4, so each side has to undergo morale check. Russians, they failed. Poles, they also failed. So now losses. Russians had 4, no losses for Poles. Poles had 2, no losses for Russians. And this concludes this turn. We are moving into turn 3. So let's go and check for the command range. All Russian units are in the range of their command. Polish commander is here, so all the Polish units are in the range of Polish commander. Reorganization. This cavalry, it is back to normal. And these 2 units cannot be reorganized because they are adjacent to the enemy, and you cannot reorganize your units when they are adjacent to the enemy units. Okay, so that's all for the reorganization. Polish artillery cannot fire, so Poles are making their movement. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, and 2. 1, and commander goes here. 1, 2, and artillery goes there. So that's all when it comes to the Polish movement. And now let's go to the Polish combat. Now this Polish regiment fires at them. It has 6, but it has -2 because it fires into the woods. A miss. Russians are firing back, and I think they hit. Yes, Poles have to undergo a morale check. They passed. Okay, so now we can resolve our attack. Poles have 6 plus 1, so it's 7. 7 versus 8, so it's 1 to 1. And now Russians have -1 because they are disorganized, and +2 because they are fighting in the woods. So this is -1 for Poles. It is 5. -1 is 4. So both sides have to undergo morale checks. Poles, 9. But there is a commander on the adjacent hex, so it is 8. So they are fine, but this unit isn't. So this Polish cavalry unit is has to retreat 2 hexes, and it is broken. And now Russians. 10. Oh, they are broken. So they have to retreat to hexes. And where do I have Russian broken counter? Oh, here it is. Poles are performing an advance on that hex. And now let's calculate the losses. Poles had 7, so it will be 7, 8, and but they were attacking woods, so -2, so this is 3, 4. 8. In the 3, 4 it is nothing, so no losses for Russians, and Russians had 8, so it's 7, 8 plus 2 because of the woods, it's 11, 12. Oh my! 2 points. So Polish regiment pay a higher price for capturing these woods, and that's all when it comes to the Polish combat. Okay, Russian artillery tries to fire at these poles. First, it has -2 because of firing on the 2 hexes, sorry, -3 because of firing on the 2 hexes in the night. Then it has -2 because it fires into the woods, and then +1 because it fires on the stack which has more than 8 points. So it has a total of -4. Well, almost impossible shot. Yes, so that's all. And next we have to check for Russian movement. So I need this unit to step back 1 and 2. And this infantry unit will go onto this hex, so their commander will help them, let's hope so, to get back to normal. Otherwise they will be in a very bad situation. Okay, so that's all for the Russian movement. Russians are not attacking anywhere. So this concludes turn 3. We are moving into turn 4. So, turn 4 ahead. Let's roll for the initiative. Poles, Russians, Poles have initiative. Next, command. Commander is here, so all the Polish units are in command. All the Russian units are in command as well. Now, reorganization. I want to reorganize this cavalry. 6, I made it. They are back to normal from being broken. And Russians want to get their infantry back to normal. They have 7, but they have commander on the same hex as them. And due to this fact, then we get +2 for our sorry, -2 for our die roll. 3. They are fine, so they are not broken anymore, but they remain disorganized, which is still pretty bad. Okay, so that's all. Now Poles can move. So Polish regiment enters this hex. Now this Polish regiment moves 1 and 2 because it moves down the road, so it can spend a half of its movement point. I will try to do such a quick attack. I move my commander here. 1, 2. 1, 2. My cavalry 1, 2. Sorry, 1 because it moves down the road, and 3. It is 4. Commander, they go here, so they will be adjacent to the commander, and artillery moves there. So that's all for the Polish movement, and let's go to resolve Polish attacks. So who is going to attack where? First of all, Russian artillery may fire at the approaching Polish soldiers. and this is a morale check for Poles. They passed. Okay, so now we have to resolve our rifle combat. So each of these regiments fires independently. So they have 6 and they have 6. They are both firing here. So I have to make 2 rolls with 7-5 verse. So first shot 8, this is a hit, and the second shot 6, this is a miss. So a Russian regiment suffers 1 loss. And I also have to make a roll for the Russian commander. If he wasn't wounded, he's fine. Now Russians are firing back because they also can. So they have 8 and 6. This is a miss. Okay, so now I can resolve attacks. 6 and 6 versus, so it's 12 versus 8. So this is versus 9, because there is also an artillery here, and artillery always fights with 1 strength point when it fights in the hand-to-hand combat. So it's 12 to 9, so it's 1 to 1. But Russian unit is disorganized, so it gives Poles +1 bonus. It is 6 plus 1, so it's 6-7, and this means 1 T for Russians and T for Poles. So Russians have to retreat 1 hex, and the artillery cannot, because artillery cannot retreat, so it remains here. These guys are retreating onto this hex, and now they have to undergo morale check. 7, they passed. Now Poles, they have to undergo morale checks as well. So this group first, 7, they passed, and this regiment 9, but they have commander on the adjacent hex, so it's 8, so they passed. And now they are entering this hex, and artillery is eliminated instantly when enemy enters its hex. And they are advancing here. So that's all when it comes to sorry, they cannot. They would only be allowed to advance here, but I don't want to. So that's all. And now we have to calculate the losses. Poles have 12, so it's 11-12, and 5 in the 11-12. This is 1 loss for Russians. So this regiment suffers 1 loss. And then Polish losses. Russians had 7. And 6 in the 7, no losses on Polish side. That's good. Looks like Poles are doing pretty well. Now this cavalry tries to attack these Russians. It attacks from the rear, and when it's attacking from the rear, you get +2, I believe. Let me check. Yes, it's +2. So it has 4. And due to the fact that it is attacking in the night, it has 2. 2 versus 8, so it's it is 1 to 4, so it would be -4. But it is attacking from the rear, so it's +2. So it has now only -2 for the die roll. Ow! Poles are lucky in this game. It's a 6, -2 is 4. So both sides have to undergo morale checks. Russians? No! I feel really bad for them. And Poles? They passed. Okay, so losses. And now Poles had 2, but they get +2 because of the attacking from the rear. So it will be 5-6. And 10. 1 loss on the Russian side, so Russian regiment suffers 1 loss. And now Polish losses. Russians had 8, but -2, this is 3-4. And 5, no losses on Polish side. I feel really bad for Russians. They suffered heavy losses, and they have only 2 regiments left, and both of them are actually disorganized. That's extremely bad. Okay, this concludes Polish attacks, and time for Russians. So this unit has to retreat. 1, 2. These guys cannot, so they have to fight. Well, it won't be easy. So they are attacking Poles. They have 6, so they have 3. But first, rifle combat. Poles are attacking, and they hit. They have 9. So Russians suffer 1 loss. And I have to make a roll for a Russian commander. He's fine. And now Russians are firing with a strength of 6 and 9 in the 7. It is -1 for Polish regiment as well. Okay, so now it's time for combat. Russians have 6, Poles have, this is 8 regiments, so it has 11. So it's 1 to 2 for Russians. So it's -2 and -1 because they are disorganized. So it's -3 for Russians, and oh hell, they are forced to step back. They are disorganized, and they have to undergo morale check. They passed. Lucky for them, because otherwise they would be broken. Now Poles, they've passed, so they can advance after combat. And now losses. Russians had 3. No losses for Poles. And Poles had 11, 10. These are 2 losses for Russian regiment. Okay, and this concludes turn 4. We are moving into turn 5. Let's make a roll for the initiative. Russians, Poles, 2 and 2, so we have a draw. And when we have a draw, the side that had initiative in the previous turn gets initiative, and because of that, Poles keep initiative. Okay, so now let's check for the line of command. Now, Polish commander is here, so this group is out of command. All the other Polish units are in his range. Russians, well, they have only 1 regiment, 1 commander here, and they are both in his range. So now, reorganization. Polish commander tries to reorganize this cavalry. 8. They have 7, but they are adjacent to the commander, so they passed. And this Russian regiment will try to reorganize itself, because this one cannot, because it is adjacent to the enemy. Oh, I forgot one more thing. I am deeply sorry. This unit was broken. And when your unit is broken, it has to step 2 hexes instantly. And due to this fact, it is out of the board already. And when broken unit is out of the board, it is eliminated instantly. So yes, that was my mistake. And now, due to this fact, this 50 regiment is eliminated. And now they will try to reorganize themselves. 4, they made it. Okay, so Poles, what they can do? Actually, Russians are losing this game, you can tell. And since we are going to use the units from this game along with the losses in the second game for the Battle of Dobre, I think that both sides are not very eager to suffer much losses. Well, Russians would like to retreat with this regiment, hoping to save it from the next battle, but now the Poles have to decide if they want to fight more and try to destroy or maybe inquire more losses to this Russian regiment, or simply let these Russians go and wait for the second battle. As Polish commander, I think I want to drive Russians away and inquire more losses to them. So Polish movement. This regiment moves, changes its facing by 1 and moves here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Polish commander goes here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, and that's all for the Polish movement. And now we can resolve the last Polish attack. Well, I don't know if it's going to be the last, but I think it is still pretty bad for Russians. Okay, so Poles are firing here. They have, this is, let me find, 8 regiment, so it has 6 and 10. In the column of 6 it is -1, so Russian 49 infantry Jaeger regiment suffers 1 loss, and Russians are firing back to them. Notice that they have white star. This means that they can fire twice. So they are firing 2 times, and they have 6. So 8 in the column of 6, this is 1 hit, and 6, this is a miss. So Polish regiment suffers 1 loss. Okay, and now combat. So they have 6, and this cavalry has 3. So it is 9 versus 6. So it is 1 to 1.5. This is +1, and there is -1 because they are under this out of command counter. We don't get a modifier for attack from the rear because we have to calculate the strength of all attacking units, and if majority of the attacking units attacks from the rear, then we get a modifier for that. But we have 6 points here and 3 points there, so the majority of units are attacking from the front. So no rear attack modifier, and we have simply +1 and wait a moment, yes, we have +1 and -1, so it's 0, so no modifiers, simply a roll. 5. So this is a morale check for both sides. First, for Polish cavalry, they passed. Polish infantry, they passed. And now we have to make a roll for Russian infantry. Well, this is going to be more important, I think. 5, they passed. Okay, so now let's calculate the losses. Russians had 6, yeah, they had 6. Oh, this was too impressive. And 5 in the column of 6, no losses for Poles. And Poles had 9, so it's 9, 10. And 3, no losses for Russians either. Okay, so this concludes Polish movement, and now Russian movement. So this regiment wants to get out of the board. It moves here, 1, 2, and that's all. So we are moving into turn 6. And now let's go and make a initiative roll. Russians, Poles. Russians have initiative. Okay, so now let's start with the command stuff. There is no Russian commander, so they are out of command. Polish commander is here, so they are in command. They aren't. Do I have to reorganize any Polish units? No. And now we are moving into Russians because they won initiative. So this regiment wants to get out of the board because, like I said, it is pointless for Russians to fight anymore since Poles captured both villages, and there will be a second battle when we will need our units. So I don't think I need this Russian regiment to be destroyed. So this concludes this battle. Well, I think the Poles went pretty well. I played this battle before, and it wasn't as lucky for Poles as it was. Poles won this battle, but they suffered heavy losses. And in the second battle, which is Battle of Dobre, they had much more troubles to fight against Russians. But now I think it might be interesting because since they weren't suffer much losses. Let me check. Polish units lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points, and Russians lost 1, 2, 10, 13, 18. So definitely Russian losses are bigger. So I think it went even better than in the history because, well, in the historical battle, Poles were able to drive Russians out of Zakrzew. Russians suffered some losses, but they weren't beaten. And then, in the Battle of Dobre, neither of the sides won. So we will see how the Battle of Dobre will come, probably in the next video. As for today, that's all. Thank you for watching and see you next time.